The studio lights burned like 1,000 small suns, melting any illusion of comfort under their steady white heat. Cameras rolled smoothly along their tracks, the audience clapped on cue, and the glossy Good Morning America logo glimmered on the wall behind the hosts. It was a perfect morning on television, every segment choreographed, every smile rehearsed. But the energy shifted the moment Tom Hardy walked onto the set. He wasn't the kind of guest who easily melted into the rhythm of daytime TV. Wearing a dark denim jacket over a plain black shirt and his old military boots, he looked more like a man who'd wandered in from a film set than one ready for banter over coffee cups and morning cheer. The crowd cheered wildly as he approached the couch, but Tom's expression was mild, almost unreadable, his posture loose but guarded. He shook Michael Strahan's hand with a polite nod, his eyes steady, scanning the room like he was still trying to decide whether to trust it. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael began, his voice booming with practiced charm, "the man of the hour, Tom Hardy, here to talk about his new film, The Reckoning." The audience clapped again, and Tom gave a small wave, his trademark half-smile barely visible. The camera zoomed in on his face, catching the small scar that cut across his lip, a reminder of the rough edges Hollywood had never quite sanded down. Michael leaned forward, his voice warm, easy. "Tom, it's always good to see you, man. You've got this new movie, The Reckoning, getting early buzz as your most emotional performance yet. Tell us about it." Tom shifted, resting his forearms on his knees. "It's a story about a man who's broken," he said, his accent thick, his words deliberate. "He's been through war, through addiction, through losing the people he loves. It's about trying to rebuild when you don't even know who you are anymore." The tone in his voice was grounded, raw even. For a moment, the studio grew quiet, drawn in by the gravity of his sincerity. Then Michael smiled, sensing an opening to pivot from depth to lightness, the way morning shows always did. "You always bring that intensity, man. People say you're one of the most committed actors out there. Do you ever turn it off?" Tom's lips curved slightly. "Not really," he said. "That's not how I'm wired. You switch off, you lose the spark. And I don't like losing things." The audience chuckled lightly, unsure whether to laugh or nod in agreement. Michael grinned. "I can imagine. You've got that reputation. Intense, method, serious about your craft. Some people even say you're a little intimidating off camera." Tom looked at him with a slow, measured glance. "Do they?" That single question, delivered in that low, dangerous calm of his, drew a ripple of nervous laughter from the crowd. Michael chuckled too, leaning back in his chair. "Hey, that's what the rumors say. I'm just reading the headlines." Tom's jaw tightened for half a second before he smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "You shouldn't believe everything you read, mate. You of all people know that." The line landed hard, and for a moment the air thickened. Michael kept his grin, but his eyes flickered with surprise. "All right, fair enough," he said. "But you know, you've had a few viral moments. Press conferences, interviews, things where people say you don't play nice with the media. Ever think maybe that's why you get that reputation?" Tom's brow furrowed slightly, the smile gone now. He leaned back, his hands clasped loosely together. "I don't think it's about playing nice. It's about being real. There's a difference." "Well," Michael said, "sometimes people just want a little peek behind the curtain, right? A little personality, a little fun." Tom chuckled, quietly, but it wasn't a laugh of agreement. "Yeah, I've noticed that. But fun usually means poking where you don't belong. I'm an actor, Michael. You want to talk about the work? I'm here. You want to gossip? I'll save us both the time." The audience went completely silent. A camera operator froze behind the lens, eyes darting toward the producer's booth. The co-hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats at the far end of the couch. Michael's smile stayed, but it faltered at the edges. He wasn't used to losing rhythm. "Hey, no disrespect," he said, his tone still light but a bit tighter now. "You know how these interviews go. People are curious. You're one of the biggest stars in the world, and they want to know what makes you tick." Tom tilted his head slightly, studying him. "I'll tell you what makes me tick. Respect. That's it. You treat me with respect, I'll give you everything I've got. You treat me like a headline, then you're not talking to Tom Hardy, you're talking to someone you made up. A murmur went through the audience, part admiration, part shock. It was the kind of honesty that made live television magic, but it was also the kind that made producers sweat bullets. Michael cleared his throat, keeping his trademark charm, but there was a hint of tension now. I get that, I do. But come on. Don't you think people sometimes misunderstand your passion? Like they confuse intensity for anger? Tom smirked, leaning forward again, elbows on his knees. They might. But that's not my problem. If people can't tell the difference between passion and aggression, that's their projection, not my behavior. Of expression on Tom's face, every muscle tightening in Michael's jaw as he tried to keep the tone light. The commercial break stretched longer than usual, though to the audience it was only 90 seconds. On set, it felt like a lifetime. Producers darted around whispering instructions, stagehands adjusted lights that didn't need adjusting, and someone handed Tom Hardy a cup of water he didn't touch. The air was thick with the kind of tension that hums after a moment no one saw coming. A crack in the polished surface of live television. Michael Strahan, ever the professional, kept his tone light as he leaned toward Tom. "You good, man?" he asked, his voice low enough not to be picked up by the boom mic. Tom nodded once, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Yeah, always good. Just not one for the dance." Michael chuckled, though the sound didn't carry the same confidence it usually did. "Well, you gave us a hell of a segment." Tom glanced up, his tone dry. Didn't realize honesty was a segment now. Before Michael could respond, the stage manager raised a hand. "We're back in 5, 4. The cameras snapped alive again, the red light blinking like an eye. Michael's smile returned, and his co-host, Robin Roberts, leaned in to smooth over the transition. "Welcome back to Good Morning America. We're here with the incredible Tom Hardy, talking about his new movie, The Reckoning, which, by the way, already has critics buzzing." The audience clapped on cue, the forced cheer cutting through the lingering tension. Tom smiled politely, nodding in acknowledgement. Robin, a veteran at handling fragile moments, took the reins with effortless warmth. "Tom, we've all seen how immersive you are with your characters. You once said you don't act, you become. That's intense. How do you decompress after that?" Tom looked at her with a grateful half-smile, appreciating the question for its focus on the craft. "I don't think I ever fully switch off," he said. "You carry bits of every role with you. Sometimes that's good. It teaches you something. Sometimes it's not so good. The key is learning which voices to keep and which to let go." The room seemed to breathe again, the audience listening intently. Michael jumped back in, perhaps too eager to regain the rhythm. "And speaking of voices, people still remember that viral clip from a few years ago, the one where you shut down a reporter for prying into your personal life." Robin's subtle wince didn't go unnoticed. Tom's jaw flexed, and he exhaled slowly through his nose before answering. "Yeah," he said evenly, "I remember, and I'd do it again." Michael laughed awkwardly. "So no regrets?" "Not a single one," Tom replied. "You've got to draw boundaries, mate. People forget we're human. You wouldn't ask a stranger about their family trauma, but you'll ask an actor on camera like it's small talk." The audience murmured, torn between admiration and discomfort. Tom wasn't shouting. He wasn't defensive. He was just speaking plainly, and that somehow carried more power than any raised voice could. Michael shifted in his seat, still trying to lighten the mood. "You know, I think people are just fascinated by you. You've got that mystery about you. It makes for great TV." Tom leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees again. "Mystery's fine," he said, "but curiosity doesn't give anyone the right to poke. There's a line, and people cross it because they think fame means permission." The silence that followed was thick enough to feel. Robin glanced toward the control room through the glass, but no one gave her a cue. Everyone wanted to see where this went. Michael, visibly holding his composure, nodded slowly. "Fair enough," he said. "But hey, for what it's worth, I respect how real you are. Most folks dodge the tough stuff." Tom looked at him then. Really looked. Not with hostility, but with the quiet steadiness of a man who's fought his way through darker rooms. And most people don't mean what they say on camera. You do. I'll give you that.